This question comes in from Mark Blakely in Tulsa. This is for Warren and Charlie. When we discuss Berkshire, we often focus on the insurance operations and the largest non-insurance businesses, the Redwoods, as you mentioned in 2019. However, Berkshire owns a large number of subsidiary businesses, most of which are never mentioned. Is there a point at which Berkshire becomes too large to manage? And should we have any concern over the lack of information for most of Berkshire's companies? Is there a time that could come when Berkshire's too large and complex?
Well, it's too large to do certain things, that's for sure. I mean, it's not, we can't spend our time looking for $100 million acquisitions. But we have a wonderful company in Fort Worth, and we had a marvelous man running it, and he died recently. But he ran it. He sold it to me 15 years ago, and he just basically ran it, and I couldn't find my way to the company. We've got this terrific company that makes recreational vehicles, Elkhart, based in Elkhart, Indiana, and we bought it 15 years ago. I've never been there, Maybe there's some guy in a closet just making up numbers to send to me every month. But I feel I understand the business pretty well, but I've never seen it. And the fellow that runs it likes running it, and he likes me keeping my nose out of it. And he'll let Greg in a little more than he'll let me because. But we've got a system that will work with wonderful businesses and wonderful managers, and it's up to us to find them. But it's also us to nurture them when we find them. And if you get somebody like Paul Andrews, who ran TTI and who built it from nothing, absolutely nothing, and nobody ever heard of him, and the earnings have octupled during the period that he ran it for us, and he was happy, employees were happy, he was a wonderful man, we were happy, and I would call him at the end of the year and I'd say, Paul, this place you're shooting the lights out and everything, and you should take a raise. And he said, or bonus, or what. He'd say, well, we'll talk about that next year, Warren. I mean, he just loved the business. I love Berkshire, he loved the business, and I wasn't going to add anything by having him fill out a bunch of reports about how much he's using in the way of carbon or anything. It's ridiculous to think of a guy like Paul Andrews behaving in an antisocial manner or anything of the sort. And we'd love to have more of those. And obviously, as we get bigger, they get harder to buy. But we've got a number in the place, and I don't think we bought our last one over time. But I certainly don't see anything in the near future at all. But we're intensifying our interest a little bit in the ones we have by repurchasing shares. So our shareholders own more of those companies every year while assuming we're repurchasing shares, which is price sensitive. Charlie?
Yeah, I don't think we're getting too big to manage because we're different from practically every other big corporation in the United States in that we are so excessively decentralized. We have decentralized so much, and we have so much authority in the subsidiaries that we can keep doing it for a long, long time, as long as it keeps working. And I would say so far that our decentralization has caused more benefits than defects. But nobody seems to copy us.
Well, but that's absolutely true. But I would say this, decentralization won't work unless you have the right kind of culture accompanying it.
Yeah, but we do.
Yeah, we do. But it's dependent on it.
And Greg will keep the culture.
If we had a culture of people who were trying to make a lot of money for themselves in the next 5 years at the top, it would not have worked.
No, of course not. And the culture is part of it. But assuming we keep the culture, it can go on quite a ways.
For a long, long time.
Long, long time. In fact, it may amaze everybody. And by the way, the Roman Empire worked as long as it did because it was so decentralized.
Charlie says to me, you know.
Yeah.